Hello, I'm Dr. Karen Lavoie, Professor of Music at Westfield State University. I direct the WSU Wind Symphony, which is the concert band, teach conducting classes, teach applied trumpet, some music education courses, and currently I'm also the practicum music supervisor for student teachers. In this video, I'll walk you through some tips that hopefully will help you prepare for Western District Band and Orchestra audition. Let's begin with a solo. Aria con variazioni by George Friedrich Handel was originally written for the harpsichord, a type of keyboard instrument, this being the final movement from his fifth suite. Your solo was then transcribed by Bernard Fitzgerald for cornet or trumpet, and it's important to keep that in mind when going through the piece. The piece consists of numerous sections, a theme, which is the melody on which the entire work is based, and then 5 variations, all contrasting in rhythmic and technical complexity. Let's start with rhythm. I think one of the more perhaps daunting aspects of this solo is the sheer amount of quote-unquote ink on the page. Remember, this was originally written for keyboard, so playing lots of notes and not having to worry about when to breathe was not unusual for a keyboard player, but for us, is a bit more of a challenge. In many of these sections, the pulse is based on an 1/8 note pulse, not a 1/4 note pulse. So let's look at the opening theme. The opening theme is written in common time, or 4/4. However, above that, Handel wrote andantino, which literally means a little andante or slightly faster than andante. So it's not slow, slow, slightly faster than that. Fitzgerald has suggested a tempo of the 1/8 note equaling 120, which means the 1/4 note pulse is 60, not fast. So if you put your mighty metronome on 120, and I highly recommend this metronome. This is a Korg metronome and chromatic tuner. They work great, they're small, they can fit in your case, and if you drop it, you're not broke. If you put it on 120, that's the 1/8 note pulse. So you would count this first section in the theme, 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and 1 and 2 and. Okay? So I'll play you a little bit of it. You also see an unusual marking above the middle B natural. That's not a mismarking, that's a mordant, or like a half trill. You would play B natural to C to B natural, and I start the trill before the beat, so the actual written note is on the beat. And I'll play you an example of what that sounds like. So it goes like this. Variations. Choosing a tempo for each of these variations can be tricky. Fitzgerald did not provide a new tempo marking for each one, so these tempo choices will fluctuate from soloist to soloist. Variation 1 has no indication of a new tempo, so technically it should stay at 1/8 note equals 120. However, that might be too fast for some. It is much better to play it cleanly at a slightly slower tempo than to rush and miss things, especially when going through section 4. So I'll show you a little bit of section 4. Variations 2 and 4 are both written in 24/16. No, this is not some sort of new math. That just means that there are 24 beats in every measure and the 16th note gets the beat. It's a bit awkward at first, but I like to think of the groupings like triplets. 8 sets for each measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Or 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 6, 2, 3, 7, 2, 3, 8, 2, 3. Think of it in triplets. Variation 2 also says poco più mosso, which means a little more motion, or slightly faster. Again, keep this in mind with the opening tempo. Perhaps start the piece at eighth note equals 112, and then this variation can be a little faster, 116 for each grouping of sets of 3. Also, notice the variation 2 is tongued, variation 4 is sets of slurs. Variation 3 is slower. Un poco meno mosso, a little less motion. Perhaps eighth note equals 104 to 108. Be careful with the rhythms in the last line, especially in the next to last measure. Beat 1 has a triplet, but beat 2 does not. And I'll play you the last line so you can see what I mean. Variation 5, allegro molto, means much allegro, or go really fast, but be careful. Only take this as quickly as you can play it cleanly. Practice it slowly and increase the tempo bit by bit. You can do it. Don't be afraid of it. You can do it. The scales section should be free points. Use these as nice warm-ups and warm-downs during practice sessions. Have them memorized as early as possible. Remember, the metronome is your friend. The district is very clear on what they want for these scales. The quarter note equals 100. The rhythmic pattern is quarter plus 6/8 notes, and they are all tongued. If your chops, your face are feeling tired, just practice these by fingering the notes while the metronome is clicking. Here's 100. And just practice fingering. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 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 1. And memorize. The chromatic scale is unique in that all of the notes are slurred and the pattern consists of groups of triplets. It's easy to lose track of where you are in the passage. So again, the metronome is your friend. Start this scale slowly at first. I like to go backwards. Do the last 2 or 3 beats, then add the next beat, and so on. Your eyes and fingers are memorizing the pattern. I'll show you what I mean. So this time we have triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Do the last couple of beats. Add one more. Add one more. And so on. And you will learn it that way. All right, so the next part is intonation, which is the tuning. The solo, as well as the scales, has numerous instances where there are notes that can typically be quite out of tune. Use your tuner to learn your pitch tendencies. For example, check your D below the staff, which is always sharp. For example, yet the 4th line D tends to be flat. So to get that in tune, I'm using the slide for the low D. Otherwise, it will sound like this. A major scale has that dreaded low C sharp, which is a horribly sharp note on the trumpet. It's not your fault, it's a bad note on the horn. You must use your slides to help put these C sharps in tune. For example, that's the C sharp. And I'm using first slide and third slide. If I don't use the slides, it sounds like this. I'll do it again, hopefully in tune. If your slides don't move on your trumpet, at the very least, take the third slide, move it out a little bit, half an inch, and leave it there. It will help. It won't be perfect, but it will help. The best way to prepare for the sight reading section is to do just that. Practice sight reading, etudes, method books, even ask your director for trumpet parts from band pieces. Before you begin the example, look over everything. The key signature, are there any accidentals, and do they stay through the whole measure? Are there any unusual rhythmic patterns? And review the dynamics. Again, it's better to do this cleanly at a slower tempo than to rush and miss things. So I hope you have found these suggestions helpful. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me anytime at klavoy@westfield.ma.edu. Best of luck at your audition, and I will likely see you there because I'm also the host for the Western District Auditions. Now go practice.